Hi, I'm Jason Gaheimer, PFR manager here at Beck's Hybrids. Today we're going to talk a little bit about planter attachments. So we're going to start out here with a new PFR proven product, closing wheel system called Fast Track. So we've done a lot of closing wheel testing over the years, and we're kind of shifting some of our focus towards that closing wheel systems instead of just looking at individual wheels themselves. So we've had a lot of good success of utilizing aftermarket closing wheels compared to the standard two solid rubber closing wheels. And so now taking it to the next level and look at these closing wheel systems instead of just the wheels themselves. So Fast Track, good performing on corn and soybeans here. You can see, we also have 4-link closer that has been PFR proven in the past. And so good performance out of this Fast Track system as well. But I like to talk about acres to payoff, okay? And so we're gonna look at the yield advantage on corn and soybeans that we receive multi-location, multi-year from this system. And we're gonna figure out how many acres it takes to pay that system off. And what we're looking at is we're looking at $350 corn with the green bar, $4 corn with gray, and the light green is $450. Okay, then we're gonna look at the cost on a 12-row, 16-row, and a 24-row planter as well to see how many acres of corn or soybeans it takes to pay off this investment. Because that's what I really wanna talk about when we talk about investing in these type of systems or aftermarket closing wheels in general, is how many acres is it gonna take roughly to pay off this kind of investment. So you can see with this type of system, it might be 1, 2, maybe 3-year payoff, but after that, it's money in the bank. So these systems are good investments, especially this Fast Track system here. Got a little demo model of it. We get a lot of questions also, have we tested the case closing wheel system? And unfortunately the answer to that's no, because we do not have a case planter in our PFR fleet. So I like to refer to some of this data. It is not exactly the same as a case closing wheel system, but it is similar in the 2-stage system and how it closes. You got your dual disc closers, okay, and then you got your packing wheel on the back. This system is different, so don't get me wrong, but when we talk about the yield advantages that we see from Fast Track, I think it is comparable to that case closing wheel system. So if you're a case guy and you like that system and you like that closing wheel, maybe you go with a different planter down the road, but you really liked that case closing wheel, this would probably be a good choice to put on that planter, because it is, like I said, similar to that case closing wheel system, but it is different in the fact that adjustments are a little bit different, and there's a few other minor tweaks that do make it different. But I like to reference this data when we get that question, since we have not been able to test the case closing wheel system in the past there. So this is just another shot, a couple shots of the Fast Track closing wheel, just so you can see what it kind of looks like attached to the back end of a John Deere planter, and then also what the footprint that it leaves behind. A nice footprint there, very similar to what looks behind that case closing wheel system as well. So here we have a video of us planting one of the plots with the Fast Track closing wheel system. And you can also notice in this video, the dual disc closers in the front are a little bit different, right? They're kind of that shark tooth looking effect there for maybe more of a no-till, more aggressive. So you can change out these disc bells to some different aftermarket options on there as well. So there is some customization that can happen with this system also. So very good system, 3-year multi-location data, now PFR proven. So very, very impressed with this system. And looking forward to testing more systems like it in the future. So with that, we're going to switch to the second planter attachment. This is a similar concept here, but also has a lot of differences as well. Another one of those aftermarket closing wheel systems, okay, not just replacing those closing wheels with 2 aftermarket wheels. So here we have Precision Planting's FurrowForce. So this is new to our testing in 2020. So we're going to talk about that data here a little bit, but I wanted to show a good visual of what you can expect in the field with this type of system, okay? And so we've got a display model over here as well, and I'm going to talk about kind of how this works and what you can expect of the system. So this system is a 2-stage closing system. You have the cut wheels up here, openers at the front, and they will close that trench up there. So they're going to crumble the sidewall, move that soil inward, and leave it. Okay, and then we've got the second stage with the stitch wheels on the back that's going to then put a little pressure, stitch it shut, remove air pockets, but then leave behind the correct amount of soil density so that we can promote good, even, quick emergence, okay? And so that's very important. This thing has a load cell on it. It has a control module. It's pneumatic, so it's got an airbag, okay? And it's gonna give you good, quick response time, and it's gonna take readings off that load cell so that we can put in there the margin that we wanna try to stay within to create that perfect soil density layer with the amount of pressure that's on this second stage closing system, okay? So like I said, first year testing on the system, we like it quite a bit. It's a lot different than some of the the others out there, and so we're looking forward to continue that testing. But what you can expect with this type of system is integrated sensing, row-by-row control, sub-second response time for optimized closing, okay? And this system can be controlled right in the cab on the fly within the Generation 3 precision monitor. So very nice, compact system. We enjoyed testing it year one and look forward to multiple years of testing with this system. As you can see here, one of the first studies that we conducted here, 4-location corn study, where we just looked at comparing it back to that control of a standard closing wheel tail with 2 solid rubbers. And so you can see here in 2020, and I want to point out that 2020 was a great growing season for us in terms of planting conditions, emergence, and so we didn't see maybe quite the numbers that we typically see across the board with all our closing wheel research this year, because we planned into really good conditions, had really good emergence, so we didn't really have too many marginal situations to where we typically see those higher bumps from these aftermarket systems. But still, once again, close to that 2 bushel mark on corn. Very excited to see that consistent performance over those 2 solid rubber closing wheels. Once again, just not finding a reason that any grower ever needs to leave 2 solid rubber closing wheels on a planter. There's so many aftermarket options that continually outperform what I'm calling what used to be our standard for these closing wheels. So the other thing I want to point out too is we're doing this research in plots, okay? 300-foot long stretches, replicated heavily, right? But we don't have some of those conditions you run into in the field with maybe some washouts, some rougher terrain, some different conditions. So our expectation is when you look at this data, this is probably the very minimum that you would expect to see out of these closing wheel systems, because once you take them to a field scale scenario where you have some different terrain, some rougher conditions, some washouts, whatever it may be, you're going to see higher advantages in terms of yield advantages with these types of systems, okay? It may be even double or triple what we show here, because once again, we are testing these in plot style format, so that's very important information to be thinking about. When you look at soybeans, again, a lot of our research on soybeans, we typically see that 1 to 3 bushel. Like I mentioned, we had great planting conditions this year, and so the 1 bushel there is good, and I expect to continue to test this system, maybe put it into some tougher conditions, some marginal conditions, and really see this thing shine in the future at different conditions, different locations, and a different growing season. So very impressed, once again, with that data. We did another study on corn and soybeans as well, where we just wanted to look at FurrowForce in general, because there's different options with FurrowForce. You can apply a static, constant down pressure, okay, of your choosing, or you can control it fully automated, like I talked about, by letting it read off that load sensor and trying to keep it in a certain error of margin there to have constant, where it is always staying in that range that you want to get optimum soil density across the field, regardless of how conditions change. So you can see here within the plots, even though our plots, once again, don't change a lot in terms of getting into some rougher conditions, some different terrain, we saw a good advantage to being in that fully automated mode with corn. And so with that, this is an example of another scouting observation that we take at multiple locations. This is Indiana. This is our 24-hour emergence, okay? So we wait till the corn starts to come up. Then we go out there on the first day that plants start to emerge, and we count those plants, okay? Day 1's being that dark green bar, and then we work our way up from there. Day 2 of emergence, day 3. And so the more plants we can get up in that first day or two, the better off we're going to be for our potential for higher yields because of good, quick, even emergence. We don't have some of those late delaying runs. And you can see here with the fully automated setting at the Indiana location, we had great success with the first getting as many plants up as possible in that first 2 days compared to when we were in some of those static pressures. So really, really exciting information to see there, and looking forward to continuing to take these type of evaluations on this system down the road. Another evaluation we like to do is we like to look at roots. We like to do root digs. So our Central Illinois location dug roots on this study as well, and you can see here we saw some good root development from that fully automated system compared to being in those static pressures. And so we really think there is that advantage to being able to run it fully automated versus just trying to put it in a static mode. But there may be instances where you need both, and you've got that capability with the system on the fly in the cab, which is nice. That also doesn't mean, though, that you don't need to get out of the cab, right? You still got to get out, dig, make sure things are set right, but if you do need to make an adjustment on the fly, you've got the capability to do it right then and there. Multi-location data on soybeans here, 3 location. Once again, even better returns for the fully automated system compared to static pressure. So we're gonna keep testing this system. This was year 1, like I said. Keep testing it, maybe develop some more protocols around it, but definitely keep looking at static versus fully automated, and then just seeing performance-wise with this system. Maybe, you know, we're gonna look at it with more extensively in high speeds. We do have some data on high speed with it this year, and we wanna continue that research as well. So the last planter attachment I really want to dig into here is what is called Conceal. So this is Precision Planning's Conceal unit, okay? And I'm going to step over here once again and kind of show you guys it mounted on an actual planter row unit. This is Precision's ready row unit here. And this is the Conceal. We have it dual on both sides on this demonstration here. But you can see the knife, if I can lift it up here, is underneath there. So when that gauge wheel comes up and you get to your depth, that knife's going to dig in and it's going to put that liquid fertilizer in the soil on both sides of the row, okay? That is some of the best placement. So if you look at our data, this is 3-year multi-location data. And what we do is we look at what has been our standard of 30 units UAN 2x2, so on one side of the row. That's our control. Then we take a system like Conceal and we put that same 30 units on both sides, okay? So it's basically half the amount on both sides of the row for that total same amount of 30. Then what we do is we like to increase that amount and double it, okay, to 60. So now you're putting basically that same amount that you were doing on one side, but you're putting that same amount on both sides for that total of 60. The thing to keep in mind with this data also is that doesn't mean we're putting more overall nitrogen down. So what we do in this study is we account for that at side dress at V3. So we come back across all these treatments and do the remainder, adding up to a total of 190 for all treatments at V3. So there is no variation in total nitrogen, but we are putting more up front with the planter, which has been very successful for us. Okay, because you think about the placement, there's no better place to put nitrogen than on both sides of the row, really close to the row, say 2 inches away, okay? There's no better place to put it than right there, but in the soil, okay? And this is one of the few systems that can do that. There's a couple other out there, but it's great. So we can put more nitrogen up front in this best placement, okay? And then we can cut some off the back end of our side dress just a little bit, because this is the optimum place to place nitrogen. So here's our chart for our PFR proven nitrogen placement systems, and we have Yetter, we have Martin, and now we have new for 2020 Conceal as being a PFR proven system. So this concept we've tested for multiple years, multiple systems, and we really promote the use of 2x2x2 versus anything else really. So if you have nothing and you're going from not putting anything on with the planter, maybe you're doing it ahead of planting or doing it all side dress or however, we really encourage growers to take a look into these type of systems, okay, and put it on both sides of the row, because the advantage I just showed you in the previous slide, that 6 bushel advantage was compared to 2x2, right? So if you're going from nothing with the planter to 2x2x2 at that higher, maybe 60 units, you can probably expect even more than a 6 bushel bump, okay? Maybe up to 10. And we've seen that at times within our research as well. So great advantage of this type of system. But the question I always get is cost. Man, these systems can cost a lot, especially if you're getting into a big planter. So let's dive into acres to pay off, right? This is based on our data, okay? This is for Conceal. And it's based off that higher nitrogen rate, okay, and that 6.1 bushel gain. So then we look at the $354 and $450 corn again, like I explained earlier, and we're doing it on a 12, 16, and 24 row planter. Now look at your acres to pay off. So hopefully for most of you, that's 1 to 2 year payoff, hopefully 1 year. And it's money in the bank from there, right? So after 1 year of a planting season, now from then on out, you're gaining 6+ bushel on every acre. That's gonna add up fast, okay? And so that's why we like to show this type of graph, because it is a big investment up front, but it does not take that long to pay off. Okay, so now I want to switch and just talk about 2x2x2 in general a little bit. And this is across 2017 through 2020, the research that we've done. And this data includes Yetter's version, Martin's version, and Conceal. This is just the concept as a whole, regardless of what system you're using. We're seeing very similar performance throughout all of them. So it really just comes down to what company you want to work with, what price, which attachment fits your planter best, okay, for what model planter you have, because this is in general what you can expect to see from the 2x2x2 concept. And once again, this is compared back to just 2x2. So if you're going from nothing to 2x2x2, big bang for your buck here, okay? So 4-year data, we're looking at that 5.7 and then the 7 bushel for that higher 60 units 2x2x2. So this is one of the biggest new concepts that we're doing. It's been so successful for us. Our normal nitrogen program and PFR across our plots, if it's not a nitrogen program or nitrogen study specific, has been putting 30 units 2x2 followed by the remainder up to 190 if it's corn after beans side dress, okay? But going forward, I think we're going to implement our new standard as being 60 units 2x2x2 because it's been the most profitable approach to applying nitrogen for us across the board within our nitrogen trials over the past 5 years. So when you look at the multi-location data set, when you talk about money, ROI, right? We want to talk about our return here, and this is comparing the 30 and the 60 in here back to that 30 2x2. So you can see there's nothing wrong with gaining $22 or $27 per acre, depending on if you're running that 30 or 60 units 2x2x2 compared to just one side of the row there. So big bang for your buck. Like I said, these systems can be paid off pretty quick, and then that's great return from then on out. And a lot of these systems, there's minimal cost in long-term repair and maintenance, especially with Conceal. You may have to replace the knife periodically, but once you make that first big investment, there's not a lot of money that has to be continually thrown back into that, and you can get some big gains off of these type of systems. So once again, another root evaluation here, and I like to show this example because you guys always ask, well, I'm doing 2x2, why do I need to go to 2x2x2? I see your results are so good, but why? Right here tells you why, okay? Because when you put nitrogen on one side of the row, you're typically gonna see this, and we've done a lot of root digs, and we see this almost all the time, where you have more root growth towards that side where you put that nitrogen. Now, if you put it on both sides of the row, you get a more even distributed root mass to be able to capture other nutrients and have better root interception in that zone versus it just going to one side, one place. And that's really what's leading to the great success that we've had and the high yield gains that we've had with this concept. So I'm going to switch gears now, and I mentioned we're going to talk about some new technologies as well. So we built a multi-row with multi-hybrid planter a couple years ago. Started doing research with this, okay? We partnered with multiple companies to do this venture because it's a big project. We partnered with Precision Planting, Harvest International, Schliff Precision Ag, Case IH, Yetter, and Capello to be able to pull off this type of project, okay? And so the concept behind this planter, and I'm going to show a little video clip of it here so you guys can kind of see what it looks like in action, is if we treat every acre in a field the way it needs to be treated in terms of row spacing, hybrid, and population on the fly, being able to change at any moment, how much more profitable can we be than being stuck in, say, 30-inch rows with one hybrid at one population? Is it worth the extra cost for those more row units, all the technology, the software, all of those things? So we built a planner with all these companies to test that theory, because in the past we knew multi-hybrid could be profitable, but hybrids have changed over time, and we've kind of seen the advantage to just multi-hybrid alone dwindle a little. So what happens if you can change row spacing, hybrid, and population on the fly with a planter? And that's what we want to test with this, and that's what we've done. So in 2018 was the first year we were able to get field trial data with this. So these are big field scale projects. This is not our plot research with this type of project. So these are big field scale because we want different soil types, different variation throughout. So this is the setup for the 2018 trials, okay? 10, 20, 30-inch rows. So this planter is set up basically on 10-inch spacing, and we can change at any moment from 10, 20 to 30-inch rows back and forth. We can plant multiple hybrids with the multi-hybrid capability from Precision Planting. And then obviously we can do variable rate seeding and do different populations. So we did multiple hybrids. We did the 10, 20, 30-inch rows, and we did 4 populations in 2018. We also looked at 63,000 plants per acre because 63,000 happens to be equidistant spacing when you're using 10-inch. That's 10-inch by 10-inch. That is the picture of what 10-inch corn looks like. It's pretty cool. Most people have probably never seen that before. It's not a whole lot of fun to scout. Pretty hard, especially for a bald guy, to walk through some 10-inch corn late season. Kind of hurts a little, but pretty good concept, and you can space them out really, really evenly. 63,000 though is way too thick in a field scale scenario. We've tested some really high populations in our 400 bushel attempt, but we're being able to control a lot of different things down there. Water with some NetFM drip line, and we're doing a lot of other things nutrition-wise down there to where we can push the populations a little bit. But in terms of population, it does not need to be that high. Field scale 63,000 is just way too high. We just wanted to do it to see kind of what it would look like. So this is how do we design those trials. So we could do these in strips throughout the field. These are 60-foot wide strips, okay, field scale length, and what we do is we set up all the different combinations, all the different hybrids with the different row spacings at those different populations, and we ensure that each treatment has a good amount of acreage within each soil type. So we classified a couple different fields, and what we did is we bucketed it from higher productive soil types to lower productive soil types, okay? So then when we harvest it, we can cut that data spatially. And so when we do that, inside this red area here for this example, this is the field averages for the higher productive soil types in those treatments. So that first one there, the 274.5, is the field scale average for higher productive soil type with the 6274 10-inch at 34,000, then so on and so forth. The numbers outside of that red area represent the lower productive field averages for those different treatments, okay? So you can see to optimize yield across the entire field, it took different combinations. To get that 274.5 in the higher productive, we needed 10-inch rows at 34,000. To get the 272.1 on the lower productive soil type, we needed 30-inch rows at 38,000, okay? So that multi-hybrid, multi-row width combination paid off, okay? And this is that example just shown in a little different way. So if we were stuck in 30-inch rows at 34,000 with 6274 across the whole field on both soil types, right, our field average would have been 247. If we used the other hybrid, 6368 and 30-inch rows at 34,000 across the whole field, 254. If we wrote our prescription, right, and hindsight being 2020, we've got enough data to know how to write this prescription for these types of soils, our multi-row with multi-hybrid field average could have been 273.6, okay? And that recipe consisted of the higher productive soil type needing that 10-inch rows at 34,000 and the lower productive going back to that 30-inch traditional scenario at 38,000. Another field that we did in 2018 with two other hybrids, this is kind of that same example here. If the whole field would have been 5140, 30-inch rows at 34,000, 249. If we had used 5513 AM, 30-inch rows, 34,000, 239. Multi-row with multi-hybrid combination, once again, we were able to average across the field higher yield. So what we're really trying to do is take that whole field, and instead of your yield monitor kind of doing this, we want to kind of level up that playing field, okay? So in every soil type, what combination do we need to maximize yield? Okay, so maybe bring some of those lower yielding levels up by being able to change row spacing, population, and hybrid on the fly all together instead of maybe one or none. Okay, so the other cool, unique thing we did in 2018 is we wrote the world's first multi-row with multi-hybrid variable rate prescription, okay? So what we did here, the orange is 10-inch rows, the dark green is 20s, and the light green is 30-inch rows. There's also two hybrids in this prescription and two populations. So really what we wanted to do in 2018 was make sure that we could write a prescription within Farm Server, take it, put it into that precision monitor, and just go plant in this planter, do it on the fly. Change the row spacing, the hybrid, the population on the fly through a prescription, because the trial work that we're doing is in strips, and we can change that at the end of the field. We don't need a prescription for that. But if we're going to have enough data long term to give a recommendation on how to write these prescriptions, this planner has to do it. Okay, and so this is a drone image post-hassle of what that little field, demo field, looked like, okay? And so it matches to a T, right? So I want to give you a bird's eye view of what this field looked like here. So as you can see here, we're going along. We've got our 20-inch rows right now. Now it transitions into 30s. This is what 10-inch corn looks like, people, right there, that little segment, okay? And so as you can see, the prescription worked, okay? I was anticipating quite a few issues, maybe some bugs, maybe some gaps within the transitions, nothing, right? There's a transition, no gaps, okay? So we've got the technology as we partnered with these companies. We've got the planter that can do this, okay? The other questions we always get, and I know you're thinking it right now, is how do you harvest it? Also, how do we do in-season management? We don't want to give that up. We don't want to give up side dressing. That's a great thing to be able to do. Okay, split apply nitrogen. So this is how we harvest it right here. And harvesting it, that's when we partnered with Capello. They have an all-row gladius head that we were able to utilize all these years with this research. And if you go at a slight angle across all these row spacings, it harvests really well. So we've got the technology to be able to harvest this type of field scale research, and if it is something of the future, it is there. So the harvest capability is there. In-season management, what we're going to do is we're going to do tram lines, okay? We're going to insert tram lines into our prescriptions that we write so that we can still go in there and, and potentially side dress and do all those in-season management, spray fungicide, do the protection products, all the things that we want to do in season. We will do tram lines, and we will work that into these prescriptions if this becomes something of the future, right? We need to continue to do a lot of research, right, to be able to prove this out. So once again, 2020, we did more research. We did not have any research in 2019 here in central Indiana. Got pretty wet, pretty devastating. We weren't able to get these trials, field scale trials, planted in good conditions, because I need these trials planted in good conditions to get good emergence, to have good data across the entire fields, and we just had really wet, poor conditions. So 2020, once again, different growing season. We use different hybrids, similar setup, still doing the 10, 20, 30, different hybrids. We tweaked the populations just a little bit based off what we learned for this area in 2018. But once again, here we go. Same type of setup again. If the fields were planted with stuck in that one hybrid at 30-inch rows at, say, 34,000, there's your field averages again. And once again, in 2020, being able to utilize that multi-row with multi-hybrid concept, we could add yield across the field, and we can be much more profitable, right? But that prescription might look a little different this time, okay? It's a different growing season. These were different fields, a little different soil types. But for this area, we're classifying our higher productive versus our lower productive. And once again, it took a little bit of a different recipe, but the need to change row spacing on the fly was once again there, okay? In this example, multi-hybrid capability across the field wasn't really necessary. Most of the time, we're seeing it is more important to change row spacing and population on the fly than it is hybrid. Now, multi-hybrid is still needed, don't get me wrong, and hybrid selection is very important, okay? But when you're talking about changing on the fly within a field, soil type by soil type, we believe changing row spacing and population is even more important than hybrid, but all three together is very powerful. So another field example that we did in 2020, once again, same result, guys. Big yield gains, big time returns. Being able to transition this time in this field from 10s to 20s was profitable. Some pretty high populations on that. Most of the time we aren't seeing that we need, even in 10-inch rows, much higher than 40,000. I know when a lot of the narrow research came out, a lot of guys may have switched to some 20-inch planters. The biggest problem was we started pushing populations too high. Even in these narrow situations, we aren't needing 45, 50,000 plants per acre, okay? 38 to 40 is typically still a good range for even 10-inch corn, okay? So we're not, just because we're going narrow doesn't mean we need to add 10, 20,000 plants per acre, okay? That's when it starts going backwards on us and we don't get the advantage of the narrow rows. So I want to break it down and look at the 2-year average results for all these fields, okay? If we were just take it and put all the data in 30-inch, for 30-inch at 34,000, we took all that data. Our average across all these field acres for 2 years is 232.9. If we take all of those multi-row with multi-hybrid recipes for each field, okay, average that all out for the gains that we had, our average was 260.3. You can see there's a huge profit to be made, almost $100 an acre profit, okay, across 2 years of research across many acres. So we want to continue this research. We're actually going to take this planter and move it to northern Indiana. All this data so far has been done here in central Indiana on these soil types. So we're going to move it to northern Indiana to Schliff Precision Ag, who is a partner with this, helped us design this planter and get this project going. He's going to take it, put it on some of his acres because he has way different soil type. He has even more variation within his soils, okay? So more dramatic changes within each field than we have here. So we're going to continue this research, but we're going to go do it on some different soil types with some more variability. And we're really excited to see what this thing can do. So the other thing I like to show is this is 2-year economic optimum seeding rate by row spacing, okay? And so what I like to show here is what I just said before. It proves the point, okay? Across all these acres we've done so far, if you just look at optimum seeding rate per row spacing and we break it all out, okay, the optimum across all these acres is roughly 37,000 in 10-inch rows. That's that top dark green line. In 20-inch rows, your gray line, it's 36.5. In 30-inch rows, it's about that 34.5. Most of the time, that's why I use that 34,000 example in 30-inch rows, because that's kind of been our optimum in this area for 30-inch rows, and this data shows that once again. So 2-year corn row width net return. 10-inch rows as a whole at that 37,000, you can see we're much more profitable just in 10-inch rows alone. So just the capability of being able to plant 10-inch corn for these 2 years has been more profitable. But when you can change it all, okay, all 3 concepts across the field, it's even more profitable for this, but I do like to show it per row spacing as well. The other thing I like to mention is this thing isn't just a corn planter. This bad boy is a bean planter, okay? This thing can plant some serious soybeans. And we've got 3 years of heavily replicated data of 10, 15, 20, and 30. Yes, we had to use a different planter to plant the 15s, but this is heavily replicated research we've done. And 10-inch shines, man. It shines big, okay? And the reason for that we believe is you really start singulating and spacing soybeans when you get into a 10-inch environment. So you're getting the benefit of the narrow row spacing, but you're still using a planter row unit to get good depth, good seed to soil contact, and good singulation and spacing. These things look a little bit like small trees as they come up. If any of you have been to any of our private tours here at Indiana and saw this trial on display, we go out there and we pull plants, and there's a big difference between what a 10-inch bean plant looks like compared to a 30-inch bean plant. Okay, and this data shows the big advantage that we can get. So if you're in the market for looking for a new planter and it's just a bean planter, I would highly encourage you to try to get down to that 10-inch environment with planter row units to plant 10-inch soybeans, because they pay big. And this shows that here, okay? And you can see there's not a huge range here, which is why we've always talked about if you're planting soybeans at 175,000 or up in that high range like that, even in no matter what the row spacing is, 10s, 15s, 20s, or 30s, we're seeing that, you know, that 130 range is still a really good optimal range to plant soybeans, okay? And so this data shows that, but once again, 10-inch rows is way more profitable than 15s, 20s, and 30s. Across all our research, across those 3 years, this doesn't happen very often, but 10-inch won every time. No matter what the variety was, no matter what the population we planted, 10-inch won every rep, every time compared to all these row spacings. That's pretty rare. So that's why I'm pretty confident in saying if you can get maybe a twin 20-inch planter, convert that to a 10-inch planter, or just build a custom 10-inch planter to plant beans, it's going to be very profitable. I know it's a big investment. I know it's a lot of weight, a lot of expense, but this thing can create some serious yield with 10-inch soybeans. Wheat, once again, if you can plant 10-inch wheat with this planter, very profitable. So we did a couple years of research of 10-inch planted wheat versus a 7.5-inch drill and a 15-inch planter, and we were able to be more profitable with wheat as well. So great new concept. We're excited to continue to work with these partners that we have on this planter project. Once again, I want to thank everyone involved in the project. Can't do it without all of them. And we're going to continue this research and see where it takes us here in the future. So appreciate you watching today. If you have any other questions about our research, about any of these presentations, please go to our website, beckshybrids.com, or contact your local PFR representative, seed advisor, agronomist, and we'll answer your questions. Have a great day.